X-Men Apocalypse. Now this movie is the latest in the X-Men franchise, which has spanned, it feels like a dozen movies, honestly, at this point. But we've had our original trilogy. It's probably been about almost a dozen movies. We've had our original trilogy, First Class, Days of Future Past, Origins Wolverine, the other Wolverine movie, and now we have this. So it's only the 8th movie, and I feel like I'm still somehow missing something in there. But they do a lot in this one that I think it's not only like, kind of rewriting, because of course with what they did in the last movie with Days of Future Past, they kind of rewrote the canon of the entire, trilogy, of the original trilogy. So it kind of wipes away the first 3 movies as well as the X-Men or the Wolverine movie. So, some of the things they do, of course, they like introduce characters, meeting a lot earlier than they did before, and some characters just being in like completely different positions. I thought it was really cool. I like getting to see that. We got to see a lot of the characters that we've seen before, in much different ways than we've seen them. So we got to see, young Kurt, we got to see young Scott, young Jean, young Angel, which Angel in this is a million times cooler than Angel was in X-Men 3. Like, just even his introduction, I was like, man, this is like the sweetest version of Angel I've ever seen. Even in the cartoons, Angel is like very different. I won't give like too much away, but he's totally different than what you would probably expect. I mean, from what I've seen at least. Very different introduction than what I was expecting for Angel. So I really loved that. I was like, Angel was actually really cool. I think everybody was cool in this movie, for sure. They had, a couple of characters got a lot more attention than others, and that was really, like, for me personally, I think that was, like, the only drawback to, like, the entire movie. It was one of those things where here's, like, a buttload of people, and here's, like, this person's story, and that person's story, and, like, a little bit of this, and that's about it. Like, it's a couple of people get some attention, and other than that, it's kind of like, oh, hey, you're that person. Sweet. And then they're introduced into the movie, and then they're fighting, and that's pretty much it. Like, some people don't really have much to say. Like, some of the new characters are introduced, here's how they look, here's their powers, here's like 3 lines of dialogue, and that is it. For one character in particular, I think that is literally how much that person speaks, but I won't say who that is, you just have to see it. But I still love the movie. It was still really cool. I think that was just one of the things, because we have, with this being the young version of all these characters, we never really got to see that movie-wise. So people, unlike me, who, like buy t-shirts like this, which is, if you know what this is referencing, then kudos to you. But, for people like me, when we go to see the movies, it's like, okay, we know a lot of the backstory and stuff like that. So for people who hadn't seen it and who might want to know more about the young versions of these characters, you still kind of don't get that too much. You get it a little bit, and that's about it. Like, really, like, the tiniest bit. And for some people, you don't really get it at all. It's just like, well, they're at the school now, and that's pretty much it. But some people, a lot of the younger characters actually do get an introduction as to, when their powers got developed and how they got to the school. But not everyone does. And some of the characters, or one character in particular, doesn't even really get to shine in the movie, like, whatsoever. And that was a huge disappointment. That was, like, the only other thing, and I won't talk about who that is either. But that was a huge disappointment to me. And it really sucked, because they made it seem like a big deal. And that person is hardly even in the movie, like, at all. It was really like a cameo, more than anything else, to be totally honest. And you know who that is. Really, well, not really early on, but once things get going, you'll be like, oh, it's pretty obvious what's about to happen with them, and it's going to be nothing. So, like, only 2 disappointments, but everything else was really cool. The visuals I thought looked really good. My girlfriend mentioned to me after we walked out of the movie that visually it's very similar to X3, and when she said that to me, I was like, oh yeah, I didn't really think of it, except for one scene, like, towards, it was like during one of the fight scenes. It was very, and I'm trying not to specify which scene, but it was during one of the fight scenes, and it was like, okay, yeah, that's almost exactly the same, but it makes sense why that would be. And everything else, and you can see it from the trailers, like how if you go back to X3 and you look at the trailer, like the one where they show like the car flipping and things are like disintegrating, it does kind of look like it did in X3 when they have Jean using her Phoenix powers, except this time it's not Jean or Phoenix, it's actually Apocalypse and just him being a villain and just like erasing or kind of erasing everything. But it did look cool. Like I love the way they did it with all the colors like kind of tearing off of everything, and it was like all the colors turned to sand. Visually, it was actually really cool. They show, you know, the up versions of powers for some of the characters. Like we see Magneto do some really cool stuff. Of course, Angel becomes Archangel, which that's not a spoiler because that's, I'm pretty sure that's even in the trailer as well, just like with Storm. Um, but you know, that's kind of just one of the things. So some stuff they did definitely follow with just normal comics. Archangel is kind of just one of those big things. Whenever it's Apocalypse, it's always, you know, Archangel. He's just one of those characters, and it's always like he turned from good to bad. But in this, it's like, well, there he is, and now he's bad. So he didn't really have that opportunity to be like in the bunch of movies and be one of the good X-Men. He was just like in the movie, and then he's one of the Four Horsemen. But still really cool. I think Oscar Isaac did a good job as Apocalypse. Um, I kind of, you know, the whole thing when it was like first announced, it was like he looks like Ivan Ooze from the old Power Rangers movie. In the very beginning, he definitely does. Like there's one very specific scene where I was like, yeah, he looks exactly like him, but then his face isn't as wrinkled, and I was like, okay, now he doesn't look so much like him. He doesn't have those wrinkles under his chin, which looks exactly like Ivan Ooze. So going through it, I was like, okay, he's definitely more blue than, you know, a lot of people thought with the purple and stuff. He does look kind of like he does, you know, in the comics. So it is blue. It's not really purple or anything. So maybe in that first scene though, he definitely did, and then that kind of changes. So everything's fine. If you were that concerned about it, you don't have to worry. He doesn't look like Ivan Ooze from the old Power Rangers movie. But he was a pretty cool villain. Obviously, with him being Apocalypse, he was insanely strong, which they even show in the trailers, like all the crazy chaos and everything. So that happens in the movie, and it's definitely pretty cool seeing that stuff. And the action was really good. I mean, just getting to see all the characters fight, getting to see, you know, kind of the younger versions of characters as well, where it's like, we don't really have, either we're not at the height of our powers or we can't stop the height of our powers, because like with Cyclops, that was kind of a big deal where, you know, he's new to the team. Well, everyone's technically new. There is no team in this one. That's even in the trailers. There really is no team. So, you know, there's not exactly like, they're not training to like destroy things and like fight, you know, Apocalypse and stuff. So even as they're going through the movie, they're kind of like trying to figure out, how do we make this work and how do we become a team and work as a team and stuff like that. And I like that. I thought it was actually really cool getting to see that and getting to see their powers, and you know, especially with Cyclops, like kind of getting to see him kind of go out of control. Because with Cyclops, I think we all know he grows up and then he's like super simmered down, and that kind of sucks. Because Cyclops has like some of the coolest powers. If he lets him go, you know, all out, he can like wipe out a ton of people. But you know, we never get to see that because he's like, I got to be in control and I got to be, you know, it kind of makes me hate him a lot. That's just how his character is. I always end up hating him because he's like too much of a goody two shoes, and he has such great potential to be like just really awesome, but he's always like just a stick in the mud sometimes. That's why I always end up siding with Wolverine during their little arguments. But it was still really fun getting to see them kind of grow up in this movie and kind of experience their first fight, and how the characters from, you know, going from like First Class to Days of Future Past to this movie, how those characters have actually grown up is actually really cool, because they talk about the other movies like, yeah, this happened and it was effing nuts and other stuff like that. Like, it's a part of the history in the universe, and they talk about it, and it's actually really cool, and people kind of draw back on their past experiences and stuff like that. And I was like, that's actually a really cool way to do it, because the other X-Men movies, as much as they're tied in, it's kind of very singular. It's like, here's 1, 2, and 3, and then, you know, the other movies, like, they have like some minor tie-ins, but this was like, you know, this stuff really, really mattered. It changed the world, and that has a huge effect on people. So I like that they actually kind of touched on that. Like, the world is affected, the X-Men are affected, even though they're technically not the X-Men. But everyone is affected, and they know exactly why. Like, it's the big moments from the other movies that really affected them. So I love that they actually touched on that. There's some pretty cool jokes in here. There's one very specific joke that they made about X-Men 3, which I loved, even though they used a different franchise, and it was like they kind of crapped on my favorite of that trilogy. But that's just, you know, that's my personal opinion. But I like that joke. They had definitely some cool callbacks and just some cool things that, with them kind of rewriting the canon of all the other films, they're touching on a lot of big deals, and I'm excited to see where they take it. There was one bit of news that I didn't know until very, very recently, and then this movie does have an end credit scene, and so definitely stay to check it out. Kind of mysterious, but if you're familiar with comics, you might know, and if you look up the news after watching that scene, you'll also know. But when I saw that scene, I was like, okay, this is happening. And I was like, that's why, it was a random video, but it's like, that's why that video had that title to it, because that's not as far off as I was thinking it was about to be. I thought it was just kind of like, this is a thing way down the line. But I think it's going to be much more recent, or much more current than I was expecting it to be. So I'm definitely looking forward to the next movie. I'm still curious how long they're going to go with the young versions of the characters, because with what, they had in this movie, even with the way it ended in general, I was just thinking, like, how long are we going to stay in the past? Because they made a big deal of, showing that basically the history of the movies was rewritten with Days of Future Past. Like, Gene is, alive still. So it's kind of like, when are we going to get to the next present time, X-Men movie? So I'm not sure if the next one's going to be in the present or in the past. They can kind of do whatever they want, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. I think this is a really fun movie. The only real downside, like I said, was there were just so many characters, pretty much everyone was reintroduced, and none of them really got enough time to shine. Like, they're on both the sides of the heroes as well as the villains. Some people, it was just like, well, like I said, here they are, good or bad, and then that's pretty much it. They fight and they say a couple lines, and that's pretty much where it's going. So I'm hoping that if they stick with the younger version of the characters, we get, maybe one more movie with them, and then it, goes to the present or something. But I'd love to see them kind of stick with that, because I think it would be really cool to see them kind of grow up, because they do some really cool stuff. They have a really great, like, the ending scene, I love, visually speaking, is really freaking great, but I'll let you guys see that for itself. But that was really great, the way that they ended the movie. And it just has me looking forward to what they're going to be doing next. So, like I said, I don't know if the next one's really going to be in the present. It seems like it would be, but I don't know. I kind of don't want them to ditch, the younger versions of the characters, because I kind of want to see them. And it's, it's a totally different story, because obviously, like I said, they rewrote the canon of the movies. So they're just like a million different things where it's like, I kind of want to see the present stuff happen, because we have, with Jean in the Days of Future Past movie, her hair was red, so I was like, there's some Phoenix stuff, there has to be some Phoenix stuff going on with her in the present, and maybe they'll go full Dark Phoenix in the future, which I'm sure they will, because that would just be like a cash cow of a movie. But there's just so much potential, and it's like, I want to see that, but this movie was really fun getting to see the characters in the past, and there's some stuff in here that makes me believe that they will stick with the past, at least for another movie, maybe two, because there's some stuff they do with the characters, because obviously not everybody just dies. So they have a lot of characters that they can play around with, especially the ones that they just introduced. Like, we just got Psylocke, we just got, we kind of just got Angel, because he was hardly in X3, like, that hardly even counts to me. So we kind of just got Angel, we just got Psylocke. Just in the last movie, really, we got Quicksilver, so we still really haven't had much of him. Obviously, MCU version is completely gone, so not getting too much out of the guy right now. So hopefully they continue to utilize these characters that haven't been really pushed, in the movie form. And I think they could do a good job. They had great starts and continuations for some of the other characters, so I'm looking forward to what they're doing next. But definitely want to know what you guys thought about this movie. Of course, I'm going to be doing a spoiler talk basically right after this one, so if you want to save all your comments for that, you can. But spoiler-free comments, if you will. You can put them down in the comment section below. Definitely want to know what you guys thought about it, generically speaking, and I'll have a link in the description leading to the spoiler talk if you guys want to head there. But definitely want to thank you guys for watching, and if you haven't seen it yet, definitely go check it out. It is, despite like the two little pitfalls that I feel the movie has personally, it's really freaking great. I have to mention this, I won't spoil it, but the Quicksilver scene, once again, is like my favorite part of the whole movie, and it was a million times better in this one than it was in the last movie, and that was freaking great. And they just like upped it a million times. Like, you get a glimpse in the trailer of the scene where he's just like running and they show his face and he's like jumping over an explosion. That's like the tip of the iceberg of how amazing that scene truly is. And he has another scene that's actually really great as well, later on after that. But that scene, and plus the song they used, actually knew the song this time, and I really love that song. So it just like amped that up to a million to me. I was like, this is the best thing ever. Like just watching that, and just visually, because I personally like super speed characters anyway. So it was like, man, I wish I could do that. But even just watching, it's like that just looks amazing, and it was funny, and the music was great, and visuals were just all freaking amazing. So if you had any idea if the Quicksilver scene was good or not, it is still the best part of the movie, which feels like it tears down the rest of the movie when they say that. But Days of Future Past, his scene was the best, and that movie was still freaking great. So great movie, definitely check it out. I had to mention that though, because I just love that freaking scene. It was really well done. But like I said, I want to know what you guys thought about the movie. But if you want to save your comments, I will be doing a spoiler discussion right after this. And of course, thank you guys for watching.